We're now joined by Husker line Sean Callahan. Sean, good morning. Nebraska beats Cincinnati 20-17 last Thursday. The discussion since then has been a lot focused on the lack of a backup running back being used. Is this an overplayed topic in your mind, Sean, after the victory?
Yeah.
It is to an extent because Emmett Johnson had a great game. It's not like Emmett Johnson was out there struggling by any means, and he was the hot hand. They rode the hot hand. It also wasn't a very comfortable game. There was a lot of stress, I think, with the style of the game that was, the lack of big plays, as Dana Holgerson pointed out yesterday. They only forced 6 guys to miss tackles on 60-some opportunities to make tackles in the game. So I do think just the way that game kind of turned into this sword fight back and forth where there just wasn't a lot of big plays on either side of the ball just led to the nature where they stuck with Emmett, and he was consistently getting them what they wanted. But unfortunately, the big play wasn't there for the offense for most of the night.
Sean Callahan joins us. I always think of Sean as sort of like this pseudo athletic director because he always thinks you think big picture very well. Do you believe? It sounds like from what Troy Dannon has said publicly, we're going to see another game in Arrowhead. What's your vision for this, Sean? How do you think this is all going to transpire? When? Who would they play? When do you think this would happen?
Well, the first thing that has to happen is that they already have to have 7 home games. They can't ever lose a home game. That's non-negotiable.
Yep.
So we're in 2025. So it would have to be an odd number year based on how things set up with the way your Big Ten draw is. So could it be 2029, 31, maybe 27? You just don't know. 27, they already have 8 home games. So that could be a year, or maybe they give up one of those home. There's a lot of things you can think through there. But Cincinnati guys made over $6 million from Arrowhead on this game, and Nebraska made $1.5 million. So pretty good payouts. Usually a road game, you lose money or break even at best. So for Nebraska to even make $1.5 million was a great deal. Cincinnati made more money than they would make on 3 or 4 home games off just one game in Arrowhead Stadium. So everybody won. The city of Kansas City was ecstatic. I almost think they forgot what Nebraska fans were. For decades, Husker fans flooded that market because of trips to KU and Missouri and K-State and other Big 8 events and Big 12 events. And it's the first time Nebraska's been down there for anything, since 2010, the last year they were members of the Big 12 Conference.
Sean Callahan joins us. Now, Sean, there's a pretty good discussion in the wake of that game, the way people viewed the game. There's differences in the way people viewed the game. Some would say it was a good win. Some would say it was an okay win. Some would say they come away sort of really concerned. How do you come away from that game? Do you consider that a good win?
Yeah, it was a solid win. It was a hard-fought win. It was a game that Nebraska had been losing in previous years, especially when you measure openers against Minnesota, Illinois, Northwestern.
Yeah.
Those types of games. This is a very similar game, and Nebraska found a way to win this one. So I thought that was a positive in that sense. But, yeah, the time of possession is a little misleading, mainly because Nebraska didn't have any big plays. So everything they got, they had to work for. 18 third down plays. Give Cincinnati credit. They tackled very well.
Uh-huh.
They ran a deep shell with their defense that took away the deep ball, where there was no deep ball opportunities that would have been high percentage because the defenders were about 20 yards deep for most of the game. So Dylan Raiola essentially was just playing a game of darts. He was just trying to hit the cricket board and move it around, little 6 to 8 yard throws. And that was a big majority. If you look at, I think he had 19 throws to the short middle of the field in the game. He completed, I thought this was encouraging. He finished the game with 11 straight completions, which was a good number. That doesn't happen very often with Nebraska quarterbacks in history to go 11 in a row to close out a football game.
In terms of the newcomers, Sean, again, no big plays, but you saw touchdowns from Isaiah Hunter and Dane Key. What was your initial thoughts on their first games as Huskers, respectively?
I think it's an upgrade from what they had a year ago. There's no question. The fourth down call took a lot of guts. And, you heard yesterday them say, they couldn't run that fade route that Isaiah caught for the touchdown because they didn't have receivers that could beat man-to-man.
Uh-huh.
So that was a big takeaway, that they now have two guys that are very capable man-to-man beaters, where a year ago that just wasn't in the repertoire of the guys they had. They were good zone receivers, big bodies, but they weren't getting open in tight man coverage. So I do think that is a positive when you look at kind of those two guys and what they bring. And you'd like to see more rhythm established and more big plays now across the board where somebody makes a guy miss and gets a big touchdown.
Sean, Luke Lindenmeyer is a junior now, and we've seen him develop into their best tight end, and he's going to be a critical player. Did you see this coming with Lindenmeyer? You're really good at this because you follow the in-state recruiting so well. Take us through a nutshell evolution of Lindenmeyer, the way you've seen it play out.
Well, I went to high school with his high school coach, former high school coach, Tim Williams, who's now at Creighton Prep.
Okay.
So I've known about Luke. And, you know, he was kind of tabbed a tweener.
Yeah.
Not quite big enough yet, but could get big enough, and he developed. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, that is what the walk-on program was put into place for. I mean, in the book I put together, Jim Walden said, you know, we'd have guys show up and they'd be 6'4", 208, and then they come back a year later and they're 6'4", 240, and they're like, where the hell do we get this guy from?
Right.
You know, and that was the walk-on program for decades, where you found guys like a Luke Lindenmeyer and you invested your resources into them, and all of a sudden they look like that. So I thought that was, he was one of the more encouraging storylines to come from the game. You can argue he looked as good as Fedoni or Borkature did last year, and or better at times, and what he provided. He had essentially his entire year's body of work in one game already, which is a real promising sign that, you know, he could go after some numbers this year. I really do think he's in a position where his receptions and yards could be one of the better tight end years we've seen in Nebraska.
He had 5 catches the other day. He had 5 all last year. I mean, they're going to go, and they will go to him. Now, how much do you expect them to go to Carter Nelson on Saturday?
Oh, it just depends on how they're going to use him and space him out. And, you know, this morning I was kind of going back and forth with a user on the Red Sea Scrolls about that. And
oh, yeah? What was that all about, Sean?
Oh, just that.
Was it tense?
The guy was
Sounds
one
kind
of
of
our more
was it tense?
Animated users.
Yes. What's he saying?
Opinionated users just thought, like, you can't use the excuse that he's not ready yet. And I just said, well, look, you know, he got here late a year ago, didn't go through spring because he was a June arrival. They moved him to split end, and then they moved him to tight end. But then he hurt the hip at the end of by the bowl game and missed the entire offseason, missed the spring, missed the summer, and has not played a lot of 11-man football. I mean, that's my thing. Like, you can practice to an extent, but just the game feel will come. And I think that's hopefully what they can try to do the next 2 weeks. They need to get him a healthy diet of plays if they're going to use him. They can't just put him in for choice packages of 5 or 8 plays. You know, you've got to say, all right, we're going to try to get Carter 35, 40 plays this week and then see what happens.
I wonder what that would look like, Sean. Is he ready for 35, you think? Yeah,
that's the thing, the blocking element and some of the things you do. I mean, if you're not making those blocks, you kill the run play at that point. And that's where he has to come a long way. I thought Heinrich Harburg did a good job, especially as a blocker. I mean, he maybe missed one early in the game, but he was graded out, at least on the PFF grades, as one of the better run blockers they had. So I thought that was a promising note on Harburg. But you'd like to see a play or two to get Harburg or to get Nelson though in space and see what he can do. We saw it last year against Northern Iowa, and hopefully they can draw something up early in the game for him this week.
So my Husker line, Sean Callahan. Sean, special teams wise, the rage has been about Archie Wilson all fall camp. How do you think he looked in his first game as a Husker on Thursday?
Well, he put 3 of his 4 punts inside the 15. 2 were on the 9, including the clutch one at the end of the game, which really lengthened the drive that Cincinnati had to go. So he did exactly what his job was in the game itself. We saw him 4 times. I don't know how much we're going to see him the next 2 games. I mean, you hope not a lot, but he is going to get a loud ovation. I was blown away. I mean, there were multiple Australian news outlets that covered the game in Arrowhead, and for them, I mean, this was teed up for, to kind of get the eyeballs of their country, because you have Archie Wilson, but you had Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce in a sold-out stadium. I mean, I bet people were like freaked out by it. They're like, holy cow, here's this kid that came from Australia, has never played American football. He's playing his first game in Arrowhead with Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes in the crowd. I mean, it's been quite a story. I linked it this morning, Sip, on the board. There's 3 or 4, national reports where they had boots on the ground coverage with their reporters covering the game in Arrowhead.
Wow. Archie's sort of a phenomenon, right?
Yeah, his family was there. They were at practice. It's just a story that a month ago you just couldn't have predicted it'd be at this point, where it's got like almost a Keisei Tominaga international feel, where the media of that country has kind of latched onto it, because it's just naturally an engaging story that has a lot of human interest to it. Just a lot of people are interested now in Archie and his story, and that moment where he cried on the podium, I think, won a lot of people over.
Speaking of human interest, I'm interested in what you think of how Dylan played. What do you think of Dylan Raiola's performance?
Again, 33 of 42, no turnovers. And God, you'd hope the next 2 weeks he's not going to have any turnovers. I mean, if he can get off to the first 3 games of the year with no turnovers, that's going to be a great, great start with where you want it to be. I'd like to see the deep ball come out, though, now. I mean, I give him a lot of credit, though, the patience he showed, because the way, again, Cincinnati defended Nebraska, they dared Dylan to use kind of his arm arrogance and throw the ball deep. And he didn't do it. I mean, he stayed disciplined and took what was there. And I thought that was a good sign that he played within the scheme. They need guys now to make more plays after the catch. I mean, that was kind of the biggest bugaboo, was the lack of yards after catch.
Do they have enough of that? That's the question I have in my mind. Do they have enough explosion on that side of the ball?
Well, you'd like to think Ja'Cory Barney is that guy that can do a lot after the catch, but he got a little dinged up after his leg got twisted around on that one of those earlier plays. He still finished the game out. Cortez Mills, we saw in that open practice, he's a big play kid too. Had the one catch where it was a little behind him and he fell down in the game on Saturday. His play reps weren't a lot either. So I think they have it. Yeah. And Isaiah Hunter's a big play guy. I look at Dane Key as more of a truer possession receiver. But they have big plays there. And that's where you'd hope Mosey and Mekhi Nelson could also be a factor if they get more reps.
A lot of just, people are upset about the yardage rushing that Cincinnati had, Sean, but they had 69 yards passing in the game. The secondary looked very good. How impressed were you by the secondary, and how much of that is a testament to Nebraska secondary versus confusion with all the new receivers that Cincinnati had? Yeah,
I mean, the first thing you noticed was nothing was happening on the corners. Sierra Wright and Andrew Marshall and even Donovan Jones completely dominated their guys. I mean, if you go back and look at the end of the game, they matched it up where, it was Buford and Hartstug were the guys that they were trying to get in coverage to drive it down the field late. So to give a lot of credit to those corners. Deshaun Singleton also was very good on the back end tackling. That was probably the best overall unit for Nebraska in this game, was the secondary and the way those guys played. And so that was, and to me, it's not a huge shock because they return all the starters from a year ago, and then they added Marshall, and Donovan Jones kind of developed late in the year and came on. And you even saw like Rex Guthrie out there, which was I don't think you could have predicted in July that Rex Guthrie would be playing big reps in the Cincinnati one-score game. So I thought that was something to keep tabs on here in the weeks ahead. But yeah, that secondary, and they've got, Addison Williams. We don't talk about him a lot, but I think he's done a really good job from Central Florida. But then you have Phil Snow coaching the safeties, and he's a veteran guy that's been around the block. And John Butler's an ex-secondary coach. So it's not a surprise when you kind of line up those three coaches working with that group that they've got a very good group of experienced players along with veteran coaches running that room.
Sean, I got to tell you though, I'm just going to be very honest. I didn't envision the secondary being the strength of the defense, but now I think that might I wouldn't proclaim it yet, but that's what it kind of looks like, right?
Yeah, I just think last year the Tommy Hill injury, I mean, that was one of their highest paid, if not highest paid players besides Dillon on the roster. And his injury and kind of can he go, should he go, and then going and dropping himself, it kind of derailed the whole feel of the secondary last year. When, the Illinois game, he's out there, he can't run. And, then they didn't really have another option ready to roll until Sierra got going. And they had Buford playing corner last year. They had Hartzog playing corner more.
Right.
Now they've got two true lockdown island guys in Marshall and Sierra. And I think that made a big difference.
It makes a huge difference. And so does Donovan Jones. I mean, I kind of look at Donovan Jones like Lindenmeyer. Donovan Jones, in-state kid, just sort of pops out of nowhere last year, right?
And, he comes to camp with really no major offers at that point.
Wow.
I think South Dakota, and he ran like 4.44 or something, ridiculous testing numbers. And I can remember Foley looked and said, "We got to off this guy." And they offered him that night at camp. And it ended up being a great evaluation they made on Donovan Jones that night when he didn't really have any other power fours going at that point.
Yeah, he played well the other night.
Sean, always good stuff. Thanks for the time. We'll chat with you again next week.
I'm glad you guys got the power on. It was simple plugging in a bunch of stuff and just
fried,
out.
he fried everything here.
It was Bill.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Bill.
Yeah, we don't.
Does Bill need to step on?
We had some shenanigans going
Does
on.
Bill need to?
Were you plugging in generators into like little wall outlets? Just doing. So what are you doing to blow the power?
Nothing. Do you need Bill to step in on your little internet war there? Does Bill need to step in
on the forums here?
Do you need me to step in?
It's getting
Sean?
intense. It's getting very heated.
Getting uncomfortable. Now.
Everyone's uncomfortable right now.
Sean, I will step in later. Okay.
Oh, it's okay, guys. Hey, thank you very much.
Thanks, Sean. Sean Callahan, Husker Online.